Pakistan goes in for a general election on the 8th of February. There are political parties in the fray and there will be polling. But there's a difference. The most powerful person in Pakistan for decades has been the army chief and not the elected prime minister. It's almost like being in a monarchy. A series of khaki-clad monarchs continue ruling with no accountability to the people. Regardless of who wins, there is only one party in power, the Pakistan army. Politicians are just puppets. When did Pakistan become a puppet show? And must India worry? Joining me on the News9 Plus Show tonight are Lieutenant General D.S. Hooda and Sushant Sareen, my colleague Deepak Bhadana. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus Show. General Hooda, I want to start by asking you, how does General Munir differ from his predecessors, General Bajwa and General Rahil Sharif, the three puppeteers of Pakistan in the last decade or so?
So fundamentally, Sandeep, I don't think there is any difference. So always the Pakistan army and the Pakistani chief have carried out what is political engineering in order to see that the person that they favor is in power. It happened to Imran Khan, and right now what you're seeing is Nawaz Sharif, who was earlier ousted, is now become the favorite of the Pakistan army chief. In fact, his daughter Mariam said openly in the rally that it was the Pakistan army that has brought back Nawaz Sharif from England. So I don't see much change, although this time, frankly, I mean, what Munir and the Pakistan army has done to try and dismantle PTI is something unprecedented. The defection that they've engineered, the arrest of leaders, the fact that PTI doesn't have a poll symbol, four prison terms that have been awarded to Imran Khan. So I think he's taken things a step further.
He's taken things a step further. And Sushant, while we're talking about the elections, I mean, who has a worse job in Pakistan today? Is it General Munir or is it going to be Nawaz Sharif, who's most likely to win the selection tomorrow, or the election, sorry?
Sandeep, I don't know who's going to win. The speculation is that Nawaz Sharif is likely to come out on top, but you never know. Pakistani elections have had a habit of pulling off nasty surprises. Will we see another one tomorrow? We don't know. Probably not. The odds are not in favor of that. But I think anybody, I just tweeted something today where I said that, it's not a crown of thorns anymore. It's a bed of nails with bombs underneath it, all waiting to go off. So I think, or a bed of nails on a minefield. So I think everybody is, their neck is on the block. If, for example, Imran Khan's party was to pull off some miracle and get about 60-70 seats, then Asim Munir's neck is on the block. If Nawaz Sharif wins, his neck will perpetually be on the block. So, frankly, I don't know why anybody wants to become prime minister, because, after prime minister house, you go straight to prison anyways. So.
It's a bit like Russian roulette, right? I mean, damned if you do, damned if you don't.
It's a Pakistani roulette.
So what does a Pakistani roulette look like? The minefield underneath, you have one bullet in the chamber and minefield below and a bomb above you. How does that work?
I'm not one of those who's very fond of, pointing a gun to my head and pulling the trigger. But I think the Pakistanis love doing it. They love to take their chances. It's a great time while you are in power. And then, it's a kind of a hangover of, the high of power. But they're kind of adept at it. Nawaz Sharif is do it 4 times. Imran, I don't think General Hooda is being unnecessarily pessimistic about Imran's future. I'm sure Nawaz Sharif is going to shoot himself in the feet within a couple of months, maybe a couple of years. And then Imran is going to come back. And all the cases against him are going to be off, provided Asim Munir is not in power. Because between Munir and Imran, it's now... It's personal. So
absolutely, it will be personal. And Deepak, I'm going to ask you about this, but before that, very quickly to General Hooda. So I watch a lot of science fiction films, and there's a category of Hollywood sci-fi actors who are the only ones to have been killed on screen by a predator, Terminator, and an alien. So Nawaz Sharif is the only prime minister in the world probably who's been ousted by a president, by a chief justice, and a general. Now, even if he returns to power, what are the chances that he's going to complete his term, or will there be a fourth category that we haven't known who's going to come out and, send him back to prison or exile him? What are the chances that he'll complete a full term? No one in Pakistan has completed a full term.
So Sandeep, going by history, what you're saying is right, and I completely agree with what Sushant has talked about, the bed of nails. There are three crises which are facing Pakistan today. So there is a political crisis,
yes.
Massive instability, and I'm not pessimistic about Imran. Frankly, he remains quite a popular leader, and even if Nawaz Sharif wins, there is a lot of talk about the fact that a lot of people in Pakistan are not happy. So I think the political instability will continue.
Right.
The economic instability will continue, although Asif Munir seems to have invested personally in it.
Yes.
Calling businessmen. The economic crisis is not going away.
It's not.
And finally, the internal security problem that Pakistan is facing, massive, not only from the TTP, but also from the Baluch separatist group. So, all these three crises are not disappearing despite, what we are speculating that Nawaz becomes the prime minister. He still has an extremely tough task, and I'm not sure how we'll be able to execute it.
Yeah, it's absolutely.
So
it's like
how long his tenure lasts, we don't really know.
So confluence of problems and troubles, battalions, troubles marching in battalions. It's like the poly crisis, that word that came out recently. The poly crisis that Pakistan is facing. Deepak, you've been tracking this very closely. Crore commanders and all that. Pakistan, we were talking about earlier in the day, right? If free and fair elections were held in Pakistan, there's no doubt that Imran would come back to power with probably sweep the elections, given his. What are you hearing?
See, one of the things is whoever wins, they're headed for a very difficult course.
Right.
Right. Now, the whole hybrid model that the army brought in with Imran Khan was essentially the idea that the army would still remain in charge, but they won't be responsible for, restructuring the economy, paying back the debts.
Right, the fall guy is the politician.
The fall guy is the politician. And the fact is, like, in a vicious cycle, the powerless prime minister is also, unable to deal with any of those issues. So Pakistan is like stuck in a repeating cycle, And this has gone on from the very beginning. I mean, even in the early 90s, you had Benazir being replaced by Nawaz Sharif, who was then replaced by Benazir.
Absolutely, it's not that far ago.
As far as elections in Pakistan are concerned, I think the very first election, when Fatima Jinnah actually stood up for elections, there was political engineering even back then.
Yes.
Right. In fact, as we recall, the only free and fair elections in Pakistan were during General Yahya Khan's time. And that
1970, the election that changed Pakistan, completely altered the geography and politics of Pakistan.
So they're damned if they do and damned if they don't.
Sushant, the interesting point that the only free and fair election in Pakistan was 1970. And we know what happened after that, just one short year after 1970. But, from India's perspective, Nawaz Sharif is seen as someone who can do, at least in Pakistan, do business with India. You think that his coming to power there kind of alters this, the hostility that we've been seeing between India and Pakistan, and for good reason?
Okay, I'll come to Nawaz Sharif in a bit. I just want to challenge this thing about only one election which was free and fair, 1970. And we say that because it threw up a result which nobody expected.
Yes.
But the army had actually tried to prepare the electoral battlefield in a way that they will get a result of their choice. That it didn't happen is a history now. But the fact is that there have been other surprises in the past. Despite all the jiggery-pokery that the army indulges in, beyond a point you can't fix an election. That is one. Secondly, I think prime ministers are not exactly very powerless. Imran wasn't a powerless prime minister. He was just a stupid guy as a prime minister, right? He had been advised by the army to do certain things. He refused to do it because of his vindictive nature, because he's vacuous, and because he's very insecure in many ways. So he didn't do it, and he had to pay a price for it. But on the Nawaz Sharif question, very quickly, look, I think we are living in cloud cuckoo land if we think Nawaz Sharif can deliver. Number one, he is going to be coming in with a mandate that is going to be heavily, controlled by the military. And there is the military interference, as General Hooda was also suggesting. has increased by leaps and bounds. The
Yes.
military is now even controlling municipal functions. So
Yes.
even municipality is not in the hands of elected politicians,
Right,
right?
right.
So to expect that Nawaz Sharif is going to break this straitjacket and actually reach out to make peace with India, I think we are delusional. Number two,
Right.
please read his manifesto. Very clearly, he says that India needs to turn the clock back on Kashmir and the
Right.
constitutional reforms out there before
Yes.
anything can happen. That's not going to happen from our side. Number
Right.
three, and most importantly, please follow what the actual rulers in Pakistan, the Pakistan army, and
Yes.
their attitudes toward India. We are
Right.
living in a time warp if we think it's the Bajwa doctrine which is continuing. It's
Right.
not. Bajwa doctrine died the day he retired.
Right.
Today, it is Asim Munir, who is an
Yes.
Islamist, makes no bones about it,
Right.
who is actually calling the shots. And please go into
Yeah.
the speech made to students
Yes.
just a couple of days back, where he spoke all kinds of nonsense about Hindus and partition and
Yes.
what have you. And if you think that you can make peace with that kind of a joker,
Yes.
then good luck.
No, that's a very important point there, Sushant, that you made. General Hooda, the fact that the Munir doctrine seems to be very different from the Bajwa doctrine, and the Bajwa doctrine was more in favor of establishing friendly ties, relations with India.
Some semblance of like
Yeah,
a
some
working
semblance of a
relationship.
working relationship with India and all that. But the Munir doctrine, as Sushant pointed out, the kind of statements that have been coming out of Pakistan of late, very hardline kind of thing, he's managed to simultaneously anger Afghanistan, Iran and India at the same time. But what do you think is going to play out in the next couple of years? He has about a year and a half left, that going by the normal service tenure. What are we going to, what surprises can we expect from General Munir?
Yeah, I don't think we can expect any surprises. As Sushant has very clearly brought out, you need to look at the statements and you need to look at the situation on the ground.
Yeah.
And the statements that have been coming out about Kashmir, very hard lines and stance that they have adopted, which obviously India is not going to accept. On ground, you are seeing an uptick of violence, particularly in the Jammu region.
Yeah.
You've seen some increase in infiltration.
Right.
I dare say, if this continues, the one good thing that's happening, which is the ceasefire, good or bad, whatever way you want to look at it.
Right.
Even that could sort of come under pressure.
Yes.
So unless we see some fundamental changes in attitudes of the Pakistan military, and I don't see that,
Right.
I don't think we are going to, move ahead towards normalization of ties.
There won't be any normalization of ties. But what, Sushant, before I come to you, Deepak, Sushant, one point about Pakistan being the bridge between the United States and China. Now that started in 1970-71. But now, given the fact that both China and the United States are strategic competitors, and the US has no interest, at least it doesn't appear to have any interest in the AFPAC region. Where does that leave Pakistan today?
So that's a fundamental problem for Pakistan. They've been trying to insert themselves in Iran and Saudi Arabia relationship and maybe make moolah out of that.
Right.
They've been trying to say that we'll play bridge between America and China. But look, America and China needed Pakistan as a bridge at a time when they were not talking to each other. Now they're very much talking to each other. They have relations, all kinds of engagement.
Right.
So Pakistan will look for some kind of a geopolitical, geostrategic leverage, which brings in the moolah all over again. Free money starts flowing in. But ultimately, until and unless they fix the structural problems, both in the polity as well as in the economy, and this brings me to a point General Hooda kind of pointed out when he said that, there is the political, there's the economic, and there's a security crisis.
Yes.
The problem is not that all these crises have come together. The bigger problem that all these crises are actually mutually reinforcing each other.
Right.
And in a death spiral of sorts where you don't know how to handle any or all of them. And that is where Pakistan is at. They have no ideas on how to do it. There's some stupid idea they've come up with, a SIFC or something, which has been done in the past as well. It doesn't really work beyond a point. And as far as Asim Munir is concerned, you're being presumptuous to say that he'll retire in a year and a half. In fact, that is the time you need to look out for, when probably the conflict between him and Nawaz Sharif or whoever else is Prime Minister is likely to come.
Right.
Because he's an extension, Ta Hayat as they call it, till the come. And Nawaz Sharif at least probably will not be inclined to give him an extension. So that is where we are going to be at
That's
a year and a half from now.
A year and a half from now, General Hooda, November 2025 is when General Munir is supposed to retire. But, it's very likely that he's going to get an extension, or everyone in Pakistan, all the chiefs have got extensions. But do you foresee a possibility of some kind of conflict with India, or some kind of a terror attack? I don't forget the fact that he was DGISI when Pulwama happened. Do you see that Munir would want to kind of assert his hardline Islamist credentials, as Sushant was mentioning, by testing us once again?
Sandeep, I mean, trying to predict something that's going to happen a year and a half later. What I can tell you is what I personally sort of experienced, and that was in 2013.
Yes.
And when we suddenly found an uptick of violence happening, 2012 was considered the most peaceful year in insurgency in Jammu and Kashmir. And suddenly, 2013, you see an uptick in violence, ceasefire violations, cross-border attacks that were happening, particularly in the Jammu region. And some of us wondered whether it was related to the fact that Kayani was to retire that year.
Right.
And was this some way of putting pressure? So, as I said, I really can't speculate on a year and a half. Just go back and look at, some of the trends that happened, which, I personally saw when I was there.
Right. And with that, we come to the end of this discussion. Thank you very much, General Hooda, Sushant, and my colleague Deepak Bhadana. Pakistan's puppet show continues as it has for decades. It's only getting worse now with the economic troubles and terror attacks. And we will be watching the elections very carefully to know who it throws up. Will it be Nawaz, as is widely predicted, or some other candidate that we don't really expect to be Prime Minister? But thanks for watching.
Streaming on News9 Plus. News is now content. Subscribe and get free vouchers.